A day of huge courtroom moments with enormous ramifications from across the country, with two big cases and two dramatic endings. In New York City, hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs facing a potential life sentence, squaring off against the federal government in a case involving baby oil, prostitutes, and allegations of racketeering. Diddy beat the government on the most serious charges, and we are live from New York with all the latest in this shocking result. Meanwhile, across the country, in Boise, Idaho, the accused killer in the Idaho 4 case gets a deal from prosecutors, avoiding the maximum sentence for the mass murder of 4 students from the University of Idaho. And today, the killer admits to his guilt in court, while some members of the victims' families protest the plea deal. We are live from Boise with all the latest in this surprising resolution on this, a day of big decisions in big cases, right here on your front row seat to justice.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And yes, it was a big day. I'm sure you were perhaps planted in front of your television. Maybe you were grabbing your cell phone with all these blowing up breaking news stories from across the country, from courtroom in New York and in Boise, Idaho. But let me start here. Like, what is my takeaway from today? Today was a bad day for prosecutors. For much different reasons in these two cases, but make no mistake, this was a bad day for prosecutors. Let's start with what was happening out in Boise, Idaho. A plea deal for a mass murderer. Let that soak in for just a second. Because prosecutors have complete discretion on who gets a deal, who doesn't get a deal. And we've covered a lot of cases here at Court TV, including a lot of death penalty cases where no deal was offered to the defendant, because prosecutors in those jurisdictions believed that that defendant was the worst of the worst. In jurisdictions where they believed the worst of the worst should end up on death row. And prosecutors who believe justice is sentencing the worst of the worst to the maximum possible penalty. That didn't happen here. He got a deal. You can try to explain it. You can try to say how it's so good and how it's going to work out the best possible way in the end. But at the end of the day, you gave a deal to a psychotic mass murderer. And that's not a good look for a prosecutor. That's a bad look. That's a bad day. Let's go to New York. Diddy beat the government, the federal government. You know, the federal government that never loses a trial, they lost today. Don't tell me partial win. No, it was a loss. And they should be embarrassed. They really should be embarrassed. Not by the fact that they lost, but by the fact that they brought a RICO case based on this set of facts. We've been saying it throughout. Every time I talk about the story, I have guests on. I'm like, why is this a RICO case? Is this what RICO is for? It's not. Now, the prosecutor who tried the case wasn't the boss when the RICO case was brought against Diddy. That was a man named Damian Williams, who is no longer in that position, no longer in that office. I'm sure he's making a lot of money somewhere. But he made that decision. Like, what motivated prosecutors, federal prosecutors, to bring this RICO case against Diddy? Was it the headline? Well, that headline today doesn't look good for the federal prosecutors, the one who brought the case, the man who was the boss at the time, and the ones who tried the case. Bad day for federal prosecutors. And that now brings us to the question that I ask when every case comes to some form of a conclusion: was justice served today? And that's, you know, sometimes that's not an easy question to answer. It depends upon your perspective. And there are those who believe in Boise, Idaho, justice was served, including some of the victims' families. There are others who absolutely don't think justice was served. And the same is happening in the Diddy case. There are people who are like, well, what about the victims? This guy's a disgrace. This behavior. You mean he's going to walk out of prison soon? Yeah, he is. I don't know what the sentence is going to be yet, but it's not going to be life. It's not going to be decades behind bars. It's an absolute win for him. But was justice served? I don't know. It depends on your perspective of that as well. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So let's get into it. Let's start in Boise, where today, again, there was another opportunity here for the system of justice, whether it's the prosecutor or the judge or whoever's in charge here, in taking this plea, this guilty plea from the mass murderer. Now, when I practiced in my jurisdiction, the defendant would have to lay out what they did. Tell me what you did. Tell me why you're guilty. That didn't happen here. Instead, he was given, again, the easy way out of the case, right? No firing squad, and the easy way out of his plea, which was just to be basically a yes man inside the courtroom. Take a look.
You feel like you are thinking clearly today?
Yes, 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 yes.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes.
How do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, 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 guilty.
And that's it. That's it. That's all we heard from him today. Unbelievable. No allocution. No admission of what he actually did. None of that. Again, an easy way to slide through the whole process. Okay, let's talk about what happened in New York now. The verdict. What was the verdict? The verdict was count 1, racketeering conspiracy. This is the RICO charge. Not guilty. Count 2, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion as to Cassie Ventura. Another serious charge. Not guilty. Transportation to engage in prostitution, flying in the gigolos, right? Cassie Ventura, guilty. That's the least severe of all the charges. Next, count 4, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, Jane, not guilty. Count 5, transportation to engage in prostitution. Again, flying in the prostitutes, guilty. That was it. Unbelievable day. Okay. We've got our people on the ground in the middle of it. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson is live in Boise, Idaho. He was in the courtroom for today's plea hearing. We're going to speak to him in a second. But first up, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft joining us live from outside the federal courthouse in New York City. Kelly, great to see you. I know there were some things happening later in the day today after the verdict. Let's talk about where we are, what happened. Is Diddy locked up tonight?
Hi there, Vinnie. Yes, he is. He is locked up tonight, but his attorneys have made a very, in a way, convincing plea to let him out, but the judge did not agree. So they made an application to have him walk out of the doors behind us, and everyone thought that he might just do that, Vinnie. So barricades were put up along the street. Police were gathered in front of the courthouse just in case the judge was going to let Sean Diddy Combs walk out of the courthouse today. So taking you back to earlier this morning, we then heard that there was a verdict. They continued their deliberations for the third day this morning, about 9 a.m. Eastern, and then about 10 a.m. Eastern, we heard there was a verdict. We made our way into the courthouse, and I want to talk about that overflow room in particular because so many media professionals, so many people have come from all over to watch this case. And so these rooms are crowded and packed with people. When that first not guilty verdict came down, Vinnie, this was on that most serious charge, the racketeering conspiracy. The room erupted in applause, cheers and applause from so many people that were inside that overflow room in particular. So then the second count was read, also not guilty. Now the third count, this is for the transportation to engage in prostitution. He was found guilty on that. fourth count, not guilty, and then again the fifth count, the transportation to engage in prostitution. So acquitted on the most serious charges, Vinnie, the racketeering as well as the sex trafficking, but then found guilty of the transportation to engage in prostitution. You're taking a look at a sketch of Sean Diddy Combs. This was after that verdict was read. You can see him down on his hands and knees praying. And then when that verdict was being read, I was looking at him, and he was nodding his head to the jurors as they were saying not guilty on several of those charges. So quite a scene inside this federal courthouse, Vinnie, and just really interesting to watch this case. When we first started covering this case about 2 months ago, people were saying, if you're coming here, you're not going home. Talking about Sean Diddy Combs, talking about how if the feds are bringing you here, it's because they're going to get a conviction. Well, defense counsel said this is a major victory for them. But we do have a full screen made of what Sean Combs said to some of his family members. This was after the bail hearing in particular. So again, they were hopeful that he could be released today. The judge denied that request. And what he said to his family is this. He said, we're going to make it through this. I'll see you when I get out. He then blew kisses to the 2 rows in the courtroom that have been filled with his family and friends throughout the duration of this trial. He said, I love you all. Be strong. I love you, Mom. Vinnie. So quite a day here in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you hear not guilty in a courtroom, you hear not guilty in a federal courtroom, it is absolutely shocking. It'll floor you. Let's talk about outside of court now, right? So it's a federal courthouse. There's no cameras allowed inside. So if people are going to speak, if things are going to happen, it's going to be outside of the courthouse. What happened today?
So then afterwards, defense counsel, his defense team made their way outside the federal courthouse, and they did give a news conference in which they did claim victory. And they talked about the Southern District of New York coming for Sean Combs with guns ablazing. We have a little bit of interview from Mark Agnifilo. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and play that.
All right. Thank you all for being patient. Am I speaking loud enough? You all can hear me okay? All right. Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. They acquitted him of...
Yeah, you heard Mark Agnifilo there, Vinnie, saying they got it right enough. So what's happening next? So on Tuesday, the attorneys and the lawyers are going to be meeting again to discuss sentencing. They had initially sent a sentencing date for October 3rd, but then Mark Agnifilo asked for an expedited sentencing. He even said to the judge that we want to waive the pre-sentence investigation report in which they would compile all the history and the background of Sean Diddy Combs. He said he was doing that, making that request to waive the PSI because the judge himself is going to be sentencing him, and he sat through this entire trial, so he knows already all about Sean Diddy Combs. They are going to look into that, Vinnie, and they're going to make a decision on Tuesday as to what the next steps are for the sentencing of Sean Diddy Combs.
Yeah, and there'll be some discretion. They'll go through the federal guidelines, figure out where he lands based upon his background, based upon the offense, and then we'll see where it goes. But this is no doubt a victory for Sean Combs. Kelly Craft doing amazing work throughout this trial. Thank you so much. Let's switch gears now. Let's head out to Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who's in Boise, Idaho, where we also had a huge day. Matt, let's start here. This was fascinating because word spread quickly this week that there was a plea deal for this mass murderer. Some people outraged by it. And I think there was a public reaction to it, you know, whether it's online or people doing things. And today the judge acknowledged that early on.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one of the biggest cases in the true crime community, has really touched the lives of so many people here in Idaho, Boise, and then also Moscow, where this took place in 2022. So the day started with a big moment that left everyone in the courtroom completely silent. Jaws were dropping as the judge got very angry, and he was talking about outrage from the community and community members reaching out to his office in an attempt to stop or block any sort of plea deal by prosecutors from Latah County. Well, he said that his hands were tied, and he also said this. Take a listen.
I want to point out that there have been calls by some for the public to contact me and my office in an attempt to influence my decision-making in this case. This has been extraordinarily disruptive for court staff and the ability for them to get work done, not only in this case, but in other cases where defendants are entitled to have their cases processed, and frankly, as important, if not more so, for victims to have their cases processed in those cases. It's also highly inappropriate.
Such a heavy day here at Ada County that is also famous, this courthouse here behind me, you know it, Vinnie, for Lori Vallow Daybell, for that trial, and then also her doomsday cult husband who faced the death penalty, who is waiting on death row. And then you have this trial coming to this conclusion, shocking so many people, including those family members that were seeking justice, and then got the call, got the email on Sunday, Vinnie.
Yeah, contacted by email. It's interesting, though. I mean, I think we all have to remember, and my father would remind me and other judges of this, that the judicial system, no one, we're not anointed and put here in our judicial system. It's like, it's a branch of government, the people's government. So if people reach out to the government, they can reach out to the government. I don't know how it's inappropriate to do that, to reach out to your government. The judge obviously doesn't have to be influenced by it, but for the people to be interested and invested in the way the third branch of government is working or not working, I would think is a good thing. But that's just me. Okay, let's talk about those families and their reaction to all of this.
Yeah, it was just heartbreaking to watch the families. They were sectioned off in a reserved area of this very large courtroom. It's one of the largest that I've been in. And again, it's the high-profile trial, Courtroom 400, very famous. And you have Bryan Kohberger. His parents were in the gallery, myself in that section right behind them. He made no eye contact with them. And then you had dozens and dozens of media that had been in line since 2, 3, 4 a.m. local time, Mountain Time, just to get a seat in court. And then there was that section where all the families had come together, everyone that was able to make it here in such short notice, over a couple days of notice, and they were crying as this admitted killer went one by one saying that he was changing his plea from not guilty to guilty. They're hearing his voice for the first time. He was very robotic, very callous. Some of the family members just in tears trying to make eye contact with him, hoping for the answer of why did this even happen. And then outside the courthouse steps here, we heard from Maddie Mogan's family through their family attorney who made this statement. Let's listen to it together.
I will be reading a statement of gratitude today from the Laramies. 962 days ago, we lost our Maddie, our kind, loving, vivacious, and caring daughter full of purpose and promise. We support the plea agreement 100%. While we know there are some who do not support it, we ask that they respect our belief that this is the best outcome possible for the victims, their families, and the state of Idaho.
Now, the juxtaposition here is not all of the victims' families are in agreement with this, right? We have heard from the Gonçalves family, rather. They are very unhappy. They feel like this was not justice, and they sent this to Court TV. This is a new statement from the family. The plea bargain with the defendant claiming responsibility for his actions with one-word responses. All were sufficient for the court and the prosecution team, because that is what the plea was about today, the court and the prosecution. It goes on to say, the plea did not represent the families, the victims' families. It represented an easy way out and no answers. It continues, we will move on to sentencing and will be hopeful that the court will allow for some much needed grace moving forward, and finally the family won't have to deal with the bumbling Latah County prosecution team, really not holding anything back as they are expressing such anger with this decision to take the death penalty and the firing squad off the table for Bryan Kohberger.
Absolutely. Steve Gonzalez, I don't even think he went inside the courtroom today in protest of what was happening inside that courtroom. What are the expectations here for sentencing? What can we expect?
All right, here's what it looks like. So it is scheduled for a couple weeks from now here at the Ada County Courthouse. It's going to be on July 23rd, could spill over into the 24th if we don't get through all of the victim impact statements by then. So we are going to hear from all of the family members. They are only given a few days after this nightmare that they've been living for 3 years to get their thoughts together of what they want to say about these victims, because that's what this is about, right? And then also possibly what they want to say to the killer who admitted to killing them. And we still don't have the answer as to why, what motivated him, where the murder weapon went, why Maddie was targeted from the beginning. Was everybody else not targeted? It's just mind-boggling where we're at with this, with no answers for these family members. So hopefully we get that. But so we will see him being sentenced to burglary 10 years, which is fixed, 4 life sentences back to back to back, and he waives any rights for appeals. He waives a right to reconsider the sentence down the road. He has to give a DNA sample, not to, like, that's hardly anything compared to all the rest of this. But the court said that they are bound by this. They can't go up in any of the recommendations, which is the reason why they waived any pretrial investigation in this case. The judge can only do a downward departure. So at this point, there is no death penalty anymore for this case. That is done. That is out the window. That is gone.
Matt Johnson in Boise today. Wow, what a day. Big, big day. Thanks so much, Matt. When we come back, was justice served in Boise? Was justice served in New York? Our in-studio think tank, locked and loaded, ready to go. Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates. Today, new details revealed by the prosecutor in the Idaho student murders. Who was the original target of this deadly attack? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
What happened that night? Are you not prepared to take responsibility for any of your crimes?
Interview with a killer. Marathon starting Friday, 11/10 Central, only on Court TV.
I've been saying this for months. We've said it with each lawsuit that came out, and today that was proven true. The media got it wrong about Sean Combs every single day for nearly 2 years.
Okay, relax. Relax. She obviously has not been watching this show. We've been talking about this RICO all throughout this trial and scratching our heads trying to figure out how it applied to Diddy Combs. So he was convicted of some things, but not the big thing. Let's bring in our think tank live in studio tonight. Criminal defense attorney, former state attorney, Miami-Dade, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Criminal defense attorney, law professor, Meg Strickler, and criminal defense attorney, the man behind the glasses, Josh Schiffer. Was justice served in New York?
N-O, and that's spelled N-O, not K-N-O-W.
Okay, why not?
but it wasn't a loss for the United States government. It was just, and it wasn't a win for Diddy. It
2
was
months for transporting a prostitute?
Oh, he's going to get more than 2 months.
No. A 2-month trial to convict someone for transporting prostitutes. That could have been a one-day trial.
Should have been. Should never have had, as we've talked about earlier, never should have been RICO. But it wasn't a big, complete win. It just less of a loss.
Okay.
You're
Was
not-
justice served, though?
You're
Like
not-
that's my big concern, justice.
What I'm excited over, I'm not going to answer that question, is that RICO is very much abused. And
Of course it
I'm
is.
so excited to see yet another trial go.
And that's the justice that you're talking
Yes.
about is
Yeah, true. Right.
yet again, a jury has very publicly rejected overreaching, trophy hunting, fame-craving prosecutors who overcharge cases for the salacious details.
It's not even overcharge. It's taking a law. This was a case involving a series of state felonies.
Yes.
Many of which may have been past the statute of limitations. Unfortunately, the states failed to prosecute those cases for various different reasons. And then the feds are supposed to come in and scoop up all this stuff and turn it into a federal case. Is that what we want our U.S. Attorney's offices doing?
Yeah,
we
dude.
have cases like this. That's why I'm saying I'm excited to see another go, because I have current cases, so does Josh. And
Shouldn't they be
hate them.
chasing terrorists,
Go talk to
drug
a prosecutor.
cartels?
Go to Atlanta down the street.
I was so disappointed in the beginning and not happy with the ending. They should not have ever gone after him for RICO. Said it before, say it again. But he is a bad guy. And I don't care what we saw on the press conference or after the verdict. He is not going to walk out the door.
The video by the elevators, that's a crime.
It's absolutely a crime. And here's the problem.
Yes,
The government got it in their mind that they weren't just going to go hit for a score. They wanted to win the game, show everybody how great they are by adding a pointless, unprovable RICO charge. Imagine that trial is just the bottom 4 charges. Much more efficient.
Exactly.
Much more
You skip 50% of the storytelling that didn't go anywhere.
But also, what's up? Most of my federal cases are much more counts, many more counts.
Yes.
So I still scratch my head from the get-go. RICO, why? But then, was there nothing else?
Where are the rest of the defendants?
Thank you.
The other thing that bothered me is this was a trial about entertainment, whether it's criminal or not, and it was not entertaining to the jurors. When you know the jurors are rolling their eyes, bored out of their mind, never should that have happened in a case like this. The salaciousness of it should have been enough to pique the interest of the jury.
Does this undermine the trust in the federal prosecution?
I hope so.
That's been on the decline for
It
several
has been. This does not help.
years. No,
Yeah.
when I began...
You've had politically motivated prosecutions that people don't believe in. Now you've got, we're going after Diddy because he's Diddy. We know that's why.
We know that's why.
We know that's why Damian Williams brought this initially before he got, had to leave office after the election. But that's all it was.
In 3 years, Damian Williams went and cherry-picked some of the biggest high-profile cases. Why? That's what you do when you're in that district in New York. You've got the chance to go pluck the stars out of the sky. And that's what he did, and it failed here because it was overreach. And now millions of people see a federal government that fell flat on its face with fake allegations, huge waste.
Yes.
And now, at the beginning of my career, feds bragged, 99% conviction rate.
Right.
99. You didn't even consider federal trials because they were called a long, slow plea. Now, everybody wants to go to trial against the feds.
Let me ask you this about Diddy now, because the behavior was abhorrent and it was criminal. A lot of it was criminal, but a lot of it was past the statute of limitations. Is that a fair application of using RICO to bring charges in cases where the statute of limitations, like what we're looking at right now, obviously a crime that you could prosecute in 3 hours inside of a state courthouse.
No question.
But the case was never brought.
But it should have been brought, but it wasn't brought. So what is this judge going to do? Is he denying bond now because Diddy is going to get out very quickly? Or is he denying bond because he knows what went on, and is he going to be a tough sentencer? Remember, guidelines are just suggestions now, as they were in the beginning.
Yeah, but they still sort of follow them, don't they?
Not really.
Yes.
No.
He's getting time.
How much time for this?
I think a minimum of 20, 24 months incarceration.
I think more.
If not
You think
4 or
less,
5
Mike?
years.
No, I think more.
I think more.
Yeah,
absolutely.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah, because and look, I'm only guessing because we don't know the intricacies of this particular case, but the enhancements are magical BS in my humble opinion.
He has no record, though.
The enhancements, though, so the base offense level here, and then you add these things called enhancements, and the probation officer, when they do that report, is going to add these, right? And then the defense attorneys are going to say, there's, and then the judge has to decide whether or not they apply. That's when the judge is going to say they apply and make the sentence higher.
And there's no acceptance of responsibility.
You got it, the trial
lessens
tax.
it.
Huge.
So because of that, depending on what the judge thinks about Diddy and his conduct, he will either sentence him harshly in the view of the defense or gently, way too gently, in the view of the prosecution.
How about just following the guidelines?
Well, no, I'm saying there are going to be enhancements and there's also going to be relevant conduct. Those two things, if the judge wishes to slam it, we'll do it.
And remember, when you do that federal sentencing guidelines math problem, and that's what it is, it's the world's most complicated word problem. These enhancements, they just stack. It's a point here, it's a point there, and very quickly, you look like the world's worst person.
He can't be, but
he's going to get the +4 for fraud or coercion, I think. And
for fraud or coercion?
Yeah, because that was proved. That was proved, I feel. I'm just telling you what I feel like. Doesn't mean I know. I'm not the probation officer.
Well,
and I don't know the intricacies of the case.
Can charges that he was found not guilty of be used against him?
The acquitted conduct can be used as relevant
absolutely.
conduct.
That's interesting, right?
There's evidence of it.
All right, stay where you are. There we are.
Yes.
It was a big day. Big day in Boise, Idaho. When we come back, we're going to talk about what happened as the mass murderer got a deal.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
What an easy plea for a mass murderer. Unbelievable. Didn't have to say anything but yes. Yes, 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 yes. Guilty, 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 guilty. And it's done. Let's bring back in our think tank. Still with us, Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, and Josh Schiffer. When I was a prosecutor back in the olden days, a defendant who is admitting their guilt in court would have to actually say what they did. And in this particular case, something that the families are not getting is any sort of information or admission or acknowledgement from this defendant other than saying yes.
What is an admission? Someone explained in fairly horrific detail and tragedy exactly what happened to these 4 murder victims. And Mr. Kohberger said, yes, I did that. Is there factual justification?
How about a factual basis?
Yes.
What did you do?
That is not required to take a plea. Many judges do not make
Why? Because it's easier.
It may be easier,
It's
but
easier.
I'll tell you what.
That's why. It's just easy
I
for
am
everybody.
delighted that he is incarcerated for the rest of his life, and however you get it.
Is he?
Oh, he's...
What makes you
Is
think
he?
he wouldn't get out? He wouldn't get out.
2 words, Menendez brothers.
Oh,
laws change.
Good point.
Laws change. Don't tell me that somewhere down the road, this country or some justices or lawmakers somewhere might say at some point, like they say in the rest of the world, that life without parole is cruel and unusual. You don't know what's going to happen 20 years from now.
They did do that with
30 years from
juveniles.
now.
They changed it for
They
juveniles.
changed the law.
So they sure did.
There's a lot more adults in Angola and a couple other of these lifer prisons than there are Menendez brothers. Why is the Menendez important? Because it was such an aberration.
Not really, because California changed the law. They changed the law for lifers that if they show that they have turned things around and are really good prisoners, life without parole no longer means life without parole in California. Why wouldn't that change in other states?
Is there a problem when society moves forward and changes its mind and
Yes,
gets
because
better?
we're here right now saying he's not getting the death penalty because we will never see the light of day.
All right.
I can't guarantee that.
And when I was born in the 70s, lots of people had different rights than they do now. Lots of people couldn't speak openly, serve on juries. I don't believe women could serve on juries.
How about a
until the
maximum
70s.
penalty? How about seeking the maximum penalty for a mass murderer, a psychotic, dangerous mass murderer?
I would have been delighted had he been given the death penalty. The problem with that is It is never-ending appeals. And even
No,
if
it ends when the firing squad takes over.
When and
in
if.
15 years down the road.
But
15 years.
that's not really why. Everybody keeps talking about this appeals and the... Let's talk really about why the DA's office made this decision.
It was easier.
No, it wasn't. Because the prosecution of a death penalty involving 4 kids at a wild college university might uncover some really uncomfortable, difficult issues that get explored in the defense, and the DA didn't want to torture the memories of these children by splaying them in front of a court. Because I did, you did, we all did.
You think
stuff.
they were going to attack the victims in this case?
I'm saying that the
victims who were asleep
investigation would lead to harm.
I'm just happy that he's done. He cannot appeal it.
Bingo.
He's going to go away, and he will not do anything
agree.
other.
Quit
Do you think
hearing
he'll
him.
file any habeas motions down the road?
I think, would you bring up
Yes,
I do.
He might?
He
Oh,
will.
he might.
But
It's never over. When we say it's over, it's not over.
What are you, Yogi Berra? It ain't over till it's over?
It's not, the only way this case could ever be over is after the firing squad. Then it would be over.
I wish we could quit
Otherwise,
seeing
we don't
him.
know.
I wish we could quit seeing him on the screen. I think we need to see these victims on the screen.
Well, you know, the next time we see him is when someone marries him, because that guy's getting married in jail within 2 years.
Yeah.
100% gets married within 2 years.
Was justice served? Go ahead, Darryl.
I think it was served as well as it could be, absent being able to sentence him to the death penalty and complete the death penalty, absent any appeals, which is not our system. It was served as best it could be. And it takes, and you know what, people are not remembering, and they have to realize the poor families would have to go through this over and over again.
Well, 2 of them wanted to go through it. 2 didn't want to go through it.
They said they do, but unless and until they go through it, they don't understand.
They've been through a lot in the last 2.5 years.
And
horrifying.
Long time.
Yeah.
That is a long time to keep reliving the pain.
2
and
families
anguish
not
of this.
happy with this. 2 families are on board. That's the way it is. Was justice served, man?
Yeah, I mean, I say justice is served mainly because this is what happened. This is what the prosecutors decided to do, and then the judge had to follow it. It just is what it is, and I work in the system, and I have to live within the confines of what occurs. So,
All right,
yes.
Josh, I have a different question for you.
Yeah.
The death penalty. Why do they have it in Idaho? Do they have it so prosecutors can use it as a negotiating tool and avoid having to try cases? Or is it to punish the worst of the worst? Why do you think the people of Idaho want the death penalty? To help prosecutors not have to try cases? Or is it there to punish the worst of the worst?
Much like a hammer, it's a tool, and it can be used lots of ways. Is it used to get pleas out of people with horrible crimes? Absolutely. You put the death penalty on the
I'm
table?
not saying how it's used. I'm saying, why do you think the people of Idaho want it?
Because they want the ability to enact the ultimate punishment for the worst of the worst.
Yes,
and
exactly.
what this system and this crime showed is that value exchange, that investment of the people through their DAs seeking the death penalty isn't worth the return what our system requires in order to actually execute the death penalty. It's not worth it because of the dynamics involved, the complexities of our system, and the fundamental rights we all have.
You either have it or you don't, and I'm not arguing for it or against it. But if the people of the state choose to have it through their representatives, and it's the law of the state, what is it for?
So go elect a different representative.
There are times you can use that as a hammer.
You can use it. Why do the people want it?
You want it because, as a prosecutor, I used it
Not as a
oftentimes.
prosecutor. I'm talking about the people.
I understand, but I was a person. And so when I was a prosecutor, I would oftentimes qualify a jury for the death penalty knowing we had no chance, but trying to extract or force a plea so that there wouldn't be appeal after appeal after appeal.
And what's so bad about all the appeals? Don't we have people in the prosecutor's office to handle those appeals?
Of course we do. But
right, isn't that their job? That's their job. If there's no appeals, we get rid of the appellate section of the prosecutor's office. This is people, just do your job.
It sounds like you're really upset that we're not killing people faster.
No. That has nothing to do with it. I'm telling you, what is the law in Idaho? What is the ultimate punishment in Idaho? What do the people of Idaho want? It's for the worst of the worst. I believe, A psychotic mass murderer qualifies as the worst of the worst. And if he gets a deal, then you get a deal, you get a deal, everybody gets a deal.
And after you get elected as
Get rid of the law.
local prosecutor and have reviewed the whole file, which is still on lockdown, and we're probably never going to see the scary danger points.
It's been fun yelling with you. Daryl Cohen.
My favorite day of the week.
Josh Schiffer. Quick programming note. Tomorrow night on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the family attorney for the Gonzalez family will join us to discuss today's controversial plea deal and the family's reaction to it. It's an interview you don't want to miss right here on Court TV. That's Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, only on Vinnie Politan Investigates. When we return, something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, new details revealed by the prosecutor in the Idaho student murders. Could investigators have solved this case without the knife sheath? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
These are the cases that captivated the world.
Couldn't keep my life straight.
They were killed by their own children.
That challenged the legal system and ourselves. Court TV, Legendary Trials.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. What do we have? Someone, please help me. We've got a dramatic 911 call to play for you from a new trial here on Court TV, Iowa versus Karina Cooper. She's accused of murdering her husband. That's the husband and wife right there. But she's the one who makes a 911 call. So as you listen to it, think about it. Is this legit or is she play acting? Let's take a listen. And remember, the woman making that call is the one accused of the murder. Please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Isabella Zavala, missing from North Aurora, Illinois, just 17 years old. If you see Isabella, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the North Aurora Police Department. That number's up on your screen. Let's see if we get Isabella to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.